9 years ago, Bhutan, the fabled Himalayan Shangri-La, became the last nation on Earth to introduce television. Not too soon after came Bhutan's first crime wave, murder, fraud, drug presses. Their national newspaper, Kunsal, reported, "We are seeing for the first time broken families, school dropouts, and other negative youth crimes. We are beginning to see crime associated with drug users all over the world, shoplifting, burglary, and violence." A girl was discovered prostituting herself for pocket money in a hotel in the southern town of Fusholi. In a report published by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, an average American child will see 200,000 violent acts and 16,000 murders on TV by age 18. And yet, despite these statistics, we think we have more of a handle on what is seen and therefore taught to our younger generations. But in all actuality, we don't. And if anything, we're losing more and more control over what is broadcasted on television or shown on movies. Which brings me to my assertion that because of the lack of restrictions on broadcasting, entertainment, media has detrimental effects on society. I'll prove this to you today using only 3 reasons. First, I'll speak to you about how the exposure to adult content is accelerating the rate at which children and teenagers mentally mature, and how this is causing them to experience the loss of family values. Secondly, I will shift to the desensitization of today's youth caused by the violence show on television, and how this has heightened their likelihood of becoming more volatile and less deterred by the law and moral standards. And lastly, I will talk about the obstacles television poses for the learning process of children and teens today, and its causation of reversing the advancements made on the educational system since the illiteracy age. And now, without further ado, I will move on to my first point. Adult things shown on television causing catalytic effects on youth's mental maturity, and inversely causing a decline in family values. Family values being that are believed to be traditional. Ethics that are believed to be traditional. George Nugis, a host of the Dateline Current Affairs program for the SBS network, conducted an interview on a group of teenagers ages 12 to 18. They were asked a series of questions concerning sex and relationships. When asked what they had learned from television pertaining to that subject, a boy answered, "A lot, because, you know, with all the James Bond movies, it's what they do." Another girl said, "Especially TV, all those shows teenage shows, because you watch these shows when you're little and not books." Though they sound a bit incoherent, their underlying point is that they learned of these subjects reserved for adults through the explicit content of these James Bond movies and teenage shows. Dr. Rebecca L. Collins from the Research and Development Corporation states that watching sex on television increases the chances a teen will have sex and may cause teens to start having sex at younger ages. Even viewing shows with characters talking about it increases the risk of sexual initiation. Liberally exposing this form of adult content on such an easily accessible public media is showing teens to be more free with how they direct themselves in terms of promiscuous behavior, and lack of showing the repercussions of such acts may even lead to serious consequences. This in turn is causing a loss of moral judgment as well as loss in values reserved for the ideal path. As stated in an article published by the Kaiser Family Foundation, the number of sex scenes in TV has nearly doubled since 1998, with 70% of the top 20 most watched shows by teens including sexual content. All due to the failure of filtering out material not suitable for younger audiences. And now I will move on to my second contention on the desensitization of the younger generation and their likelihood to become more volatile and careless. In a study done by psychiatrist Dr. Brandon Stechwall, he measured the relationship between television and violence by comparing the U.S. with South Africa. There in Africa, a small westernized white population remained without TV programming until 1975. The results showed that as the first television generation grew to adolescence, the homicide rate had more than doubled since the introduction of the television, and thought that they Senegal factored in the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement and compared these homicide rates with Canada's, which had neither participated in Vietnam or had a civil rights movement. Still, the statistics were congruent with those of the U.S., given they both introduced television around the same time. Dr. Senegal then concluded that long-term childhood exposure to television is a crucial factor behind half of the homicides committed in the United States, or about 10,000 homicides annually. This proves that the link between violent images shown on television does in fact correlate with the violence teenagers exhibit today. Dr. Barbara J. Wilson, a study senior researcher professor of communications at UCSB, said, "Younger children have difficulty distinguishing televised fantasy from reality and are therefore at increased risk of imitating cartoon violence." In another study by Dr. Dale Kunkel, also an associate professor of communications at UCSB, concluded that violence is glamorized and sanitized. Nearly 40% of the violent incidents on television are initiated by good characters. These patterns teach children that violence is desirable and painless, and once again, this is also attributed to the lack of regulating the violence aired on television. Lastly, I will mention the obstacle television poses on the learning process and how it is causing the reversal of advancements made on the educational. In an article published in AAP News, the official news magazine of the American Academy of Pediatric Neuroscientists, states that high levels of television viewing correlate with lowered academic performance, especially reading skills. Dr. Dmitry Kristakas, the researcher at the Children's Hospital and Regional Medical Center in Seattle, also states that the newborn brain develops very rapidly during the first 2 to 3 years of life. Even educational TV can be damaging. That's because it's not the content that is the culprit. It's the unrealistically fast-paced visual images that may alter normal brain development. Also stated in the article, watching an hour of TV a day increases the child's chances of developing attention problems by almost 10%. Lastly, the Canadian Pediatric Society recommends children under 2 years old should not watch TV at all, and older children should watch no more than an hour of TV. Studies show that even 1 to 2 hours of daily television viewing by school-aged children has a significantly harmful effect on academic performance, especially reading. This is more than enough evidence to prove that television is affecting us negatively in almost every way, and will continue to do so given the leniency with which broadcasting companies conduct themselves. Now that I have informed you of how the media is lacking regulatory guidance in what they broadcast and how it is affecting us through the exposure of adult content, desensitizing us through violent images and keeping us uneducated, I will conclude my speech with a quote by Ed Murrow, a predominant figure of television news broadcasting in the 1930s. "This instrument can teach, it can illuminate, yes, it can even inspire, but it can do so only to the extent that humans are determined to use it for those ends. Otherwise, it is merely lights and wires. Now we know those lights and wires can cause much more harm than ever thought."